Welcome back, guys. It is the Funkmaster General, and I have for you today, finally, the complete Superion review. I have all the aerial bots in all of their glory and all of their skybound glory ready to combine together into Superion to show you people. I got these guys at Toy Addicts in San Diego. So if you're in San Diego, you'll be able to find them there. Let's get to it. All right, guys, let's do the robot mode. And for Superion, the robot mode is the combiner frame. You pretty much just split the whole rocket booster jet butt section off into 5 pieces. His crotch, or his chest diaper, I like to say. These two down the middle. Actually, no, you want to keep these collapsed. If you keep them collapsed, you get this really cool, I don't know if you want to call it an auto transformation, but you'll see when I get there. Let's put those to the side. You want to pull the knee joint out first, and then lock it into place with this tab. Fold the heel in and the toe down. Make sure the ankle pivot, the open side, is pointed outwards. You know, the camera really does add 10 pounds because my hands look super fat on camera. That's crazy. Self-esteem is kind of not doing great because of that right now. You might as well just slide these in. I think these are like Minosaur. I've never had Minosaur. This is my second combiner. The only other combiner I've had from this era of Transformers is Devastator, and he combines. The only combiner joint portion on him is this little diaper portion. There's no chest plate. I love this chest plate, by the way. It's very handsome. It's very sharp. And of course, you extend his gun. There are 2 ways to equip the gun to Superion. If you want it biblically accurate, like in the G1 cartoon, you can snap it on right here, or you can pull out the handle, but we're not quite there yet. Now, you can't actually put any of this on until you get the other aerial bots. So let's start out with Silverbolt here. When Silverbolt's in his vehicle mode, he's pretty much almost entirely ready to go into Superion. All you gotta do is fold in the little mini wings, fold back his big wings. You take the whole nose cone section, you pull it back. And sometimes you'll be able to get it at once, but sometimes the head will come with it. And then you kind of want to work. There is a tab right here that goes into an opening right there. And you kind of want to you can kind of work it in there if you have the dexterity. But it should go in without too much trouble. Then you take the nose cone section, and there's 2 hinges. There's a hinge right here, and there's an inner hinge right there that you can't see, but it's pinned in there. You kind of work it up into place. And then, unlike with the robot mode, you don't want to snap it in just yet. You can snap it in at the first point right here, but you don't want to connect this all together because you have to bring them up. Sorry. You have to bring them up, and there's a little peg right here that goes into a opening on his back. And you kind of want to get that in if you can. And then there are 2 little pegs right here that go into the bottom. Silverbolt's probably a little bit uncomfortable, but I think he'll make it work. I mean, I wouldn't want a peg going in right there, but, you know, I'm not a combiner, you know, so you get it. Then you tab the chest in, like so. Just like that. You fold these back, and then now finally you can take the tail fin of the jet mode. You can collapse it over the tab that went into the back of his butt cheeks, and that'll lock everything together. And then you lock the nose cone in, and then you fold the wing sections back. I mean, technically, well, we'll get to that later, but technically there's no really fixed way to put any of the wings on Superion once you get them together. Really, it's up to your imagination, but we'll wait till we get them all thrown together, and then we'll start commenting on that. So then you can grab the leg butts, I guess. Now, if you look at the instructions, and maybe if you're after biblical accuracy like me, if you look at the G1 cartoon, there was a certain order that the aerobots went on, well, color coordination, I guess, that they went on, but the leg bots are interchangeable and the arm bots are interchangeable, so you can put them on whichever side you want to. I think on the original toy that was called Scramble City, but you could swap the arms and the legs. You can't swap the arms and the legs on this one, but you can halfway swap it. You can swap it between legs or you can swap it between arms, but I like to keep it as biblically accurate as possible. And what I like to do is you kind of get this little notch on the bottom of his neck end, and then there's 2 tabs here and here that go into the arms, and then there's 2 tabs on the bottom that go into the feet. It's the same on both sides, but it goes in real snug-like. Then I like to take this one and put it right here. Like I said, there's no fixed combination on their instructions or order where you put the blasters, but for me at least, it looks really good. I mean, I don't think it's a coincidence that there's a peg hole right here, and then you'll see later on with the arms, there's another peg hole that, as far as I know, don't do anything else other than get the guns out of the way on the inner thigh. And if you've been paying attention or you own this already, you've probably noticed that I'm doing some transformation portions a little bit different. We'll get to that, though, when we get to the section about biblical accuracy, of course. You know, you pretty much do the same thing with him. The nose cone pieces, you could technically, if you wanted to, you could keep them up and still fit the head in, mostly. It'll kind of go at this angle if you wanted the jets to be slightly more tapered to his back. But the reason they're like this is so you can get a deeper knee bend. If the nose cones were further up, you wouldn't be able to bend his knees quite as much. The ratchets do not sound great right here, but they do hold well. They're a little squeaky though. Maybe a little bit of lubricant. Ugh. Get this nose cone down, push his head back. Now, since his air intakes are shaped differently, they don't line up flush like they do on air raid. They kind of sit at an angle. That's okay though. He's a pretty asymmetrical bot. Let's get him tabbed in. Same way, hooked under the neck, and then the arms, and then you kind of want to push this up and in. And that goes in real solid. Real solid. I like to have those putting up. Okay, and now let's do the arms. So this is really cool. I really like this. This is super fun. I love doing it every time. But the jet bots, they don't really transform at all. You kind of just make sure that stays in. You fold the wings up. I like to take the back gun off. I like to put it here. I think it looks pretty sharp. And then I fold down this fin, tail fin, I guess. And then you slot them into the arm. And this thing goes on there very tightly. I mean, almost scary tight. Trying to get it off is kind of a lot of work. If you have not strong hands, it might take you a significant amount of effort to pull the jet off once it's on. That's a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how solid you want it to be. But one thing I can say about Superion is that it's very solid. This thing is not coming apart. I like to open up the arm joint. You kind of just do this, and it'll snap apart. Because there's a peg that deactivates the latch inside of here that allows the whole arm to swing apart. And then there's a recessed piece of plastic that you can slide the waist joint into, but that one is an exceptionally tight fit. This one is slightly looser, but it just goes in like that. One thing I will mention right now, since I'm here, so I don't forget, is one, this does kind of like to come out a little bit. It can't really go anywhere because of the hand, but it does want to come up in a little bit every once in a while. This part right here, from what it looks like, it would appear as though the ratchet is housed in this portion and it's being held to the joint, the connector joint, by this teeny tiny little pin. I don't know how well that's gonna hold up over time. It feels really good right now. It doesn't feel like it's gonna come out, but something about it just scares me a little bit. And to get this on him, there's a notch right here. And there's a little yellow notch. When I first got this dude, I couldn't figure out what this was for until I used my brain and I stopped being a big dum-dum and realized this is the peg that holds the arm in. And then once I got it on the first time, he's so big, dude, he barely fits in the camera. But I got it on the first time and I couldn't figure out how to get it off, and I kept trying to muscle it off. If you want to take this thing off, you're supposed to lift outward slightly and then you pull it off. So on, it just snaps right off, and then to lift it off, you kind of pull it outward a little bit like this, and then up, because it'll free the latch up right here. You're pulling it away and then up. Right, well, now we're putting it on. There's a little groove that rests behind this chest plate. Then you take Fireflight here, my favorite aerial bot. Well, my favorite jet aerial bot. I like the way he looks, like his profile. He's a very slick looking flyer. And then you do the same thing with him. He fits on real nice and tight too. And of course, on my configuration, and I'm gonna get into why I configure him like this. We do the same thing. I forgot to mention this in the Fireflight review, but this portion of his little fin is also painted just like on Slingshot over here. It's just that under this red is also what it looks like to be just more red. And so if this does, or more like when it does rub off, it won't be as bad as it will be on Slingshot over here, because he's white under the blue paint instead of red. But you do the same thing. For some reason, Slingshot's a little bit more difficult. He doesn't like to come apart as easy. But you can get them. And this is what I was talking about. That snaps in real tight, almost scary tight. And finally, you combine up the last arm. You take Silverbolt's gun, you combine it with Superion's cannon. There's a groove on the bottom of the blaster right here to be slotted into another groove right there. That way you can't mess up the orientation. Or basically both handles for both weapons should be facing down. This is an optional handle. And I think maybe you could put the gun on his back like this. It doesn't really like to stay at all, but you can get it there. Square peg on his arm. Okay, we have the fully combined Superion in all of his glory. All right, so I readjusted the lighting because it was excruciating. Not as bright as it was, but I think it looks a little bit better. So before I claw my own eyeballs out and make everybody else claw their own eyes out, here we go. So Superion's pretty big. He's not quite as big as Devastator. He's maybe about a head shorter. I don't have Devastator with me right now to compare him, but if you put him straight up like this, Devi comes to about right here at his highest point. So he's a little bit taller. I think Superion here is a little bit wider, but he's still a pretty big boy. And more importantly, this dude is a chunky monkey. He's a fat boy. This thing's thick from all angles. Some people really don't like this. I don't know. I like the backpack. I think it looks really nice. I think it makes him, it looks like he has a little rocket booster back here. I love it, but he's a very chunky toy. He feels really heavy. It's weird to have something that you know is made almost entirely out of plastic, but it's heavy enough to where it feels like it has die cast. He has a lot of nice loud ratchets. They feel pretty solid. Some of them, I guess, they don't sound great, like his knees. They're a little squeaky, but they definitely hold his weight. You know, he has the full, as they call it, the full split, or the Van Dam, right? He can go all the way down. He's even sturdy enough to pull one of these. I don't know when he would need to do that, but he can do it. He goes to 90 on his knees, almost, if you clear this little piece of the, I guess, where this little wing portion. He can get almost to 90. He can get exactly 90 on his knees. And if you were to, I think, no, you can't because this locks that in. But you got an ankle tilt. The ankle tilt also has a little bit of a piece molded in right here. So where even if you tilt it as far as it goes, the sculpt doesn't completely break. You still have a little bit of an opener right there. He has a waist. It is a little bit hindered by his backpack. It'll hit against the cone, and if you keep going, you can keep going, but if you keep going, then the combiner joint will come untransformed. So you get it about right there. There's no ab crunch. He cannot bend over except for at his hips. He slightly has a butterfly joint right here, but that's just the ankle tilt for Silverbolt. This ratchet sounds really nice, but this is the only one that worries me. One, the joint itself is pretty thin, and it's just strong enough to hold his arm up, but at the slightest provocation, it will come down. You don't got to do much. He has some rolly on his head. This is about as much as you're going to get, though. You're not going to get any more than this. You can't really look up. I mean, I would have liked to have had him in a flying position and have his head able to look up, but that's about as far as you're going to get it. Now, you've probably noticed I have him transformed. I have the configuration slightly different than the way it appears on the instructions. So on the instructions, they don't really tell you anywhere to put the individual aerial bots as weapons. Now, most people and myself initially are inclined to just leave them on the jet wings, here, and obviously right here. But like I said earlier, there's peg holes right here for the arms in the booster mode for Silverbolt that are just kind of empty if you take them off. But if you leave them on right here, I think they look pretty good. Kind of gives me tidal wave vibes from Armada, where he has the rotating turrets where you can shoot his enemies. So I don't know how big these things are supposed to be in the cartoons. G1 had mass shifting. So that's a big one. But there's also no real way to configure the individual wings, because technically you could have Silverbolt's wings out like this. That'll beef up his chest a little bit. And if you're looking for biblical accuracy, there's technically supposed to be two sets of wings. There's supposed to be wings right here and also wings right here, and nothing overhanging over the wrist. But there is. So the closest I've been able to get it, just to give him a lot of visual harmony, the best way I've been able to achieve visual harmony with this dude is leave these folded back, because it lines up with that, and these kind of line up with that. And then if you look at the cartoon, you actually can see the individual wings from back here from the front. On the instructions, they say to fold them up like this. But if you fold them up like that, from a front angle, you can't even tell there's anything on his back. And I know some people really don't like that they wanted him to be like his Combiner Wars variant, where the legs are on the front. You can kind of do that, but it looks like he's looking at his own butt, like Good Burger. It looks like he's trying to do this. I don't mind him being on the back. I think it looks cool. I think this whole design looks cool. It reminds me of when I was a kid and my mom would take me to the dollar store and she would give me the knockoff Transformers. And there was always some horrible Frankenstein abominations of vehicles strapped together. And it gives me that, but with actual real Hasbro quality. Just like I said with Silverbolt and his jet mode, it's a big dumb toy. It's big and stupid, and it's chunky and it's heavy, and he looks very heroic. His head looks like a fighter pilot's helmet, right? It just looks great. It feels great. It articulates pretty well for how big it is. He doesn't have any opening hands, but he has pretty much everything else you want. You can get him into some pretty lifelike poses. You could even have him holding his gun like this. I mean, you can kind of finagle it. You can finesse it if you want. You can get him to hold it if you try for a little bit. And maybe even you can throw in some blast effects. Not to take a big crap on Devastator, but Devastator's main cannon is not blast effect compatible. But if you're trying to pick between Superion and Devastator, you want another way to decide whether or not you should do that. Here's another one. Devastator cannot use blast effects. Superion can. All of his individual guns are blast effect compatible. You can even put him in his feet down here if you want to give him some rocket boost in action. Okay, now let's wrap this thing up. All right, let's wrap things up. I think if you want a frame combiner, if you want a Superion in your collection, unless you're willing to pay or unless you're willing to go third party, you are not going to get a better Superion than this. The system that they have for frame combining, I think, meets a perfect medium in all areas to where you get a lot of posability. You get enough posability. It looks really nice. It holds together really well. You got to remember, these things are still made for kids, so it needs to be durable. It needs to be fun to mess with and change back and forth. Silverbolt's about $100. Each of the aerial bots are $24. So if you want to get all of them together, it's going to cost you maybe like $220, $225, depending on where you are. I'm in the States, so it's going to be somewhere around there. Silverbolt I think he's $89.99 at Target here in San Diego. These are all $24.99. So yeah, about a little over $200. For $200, I think it's worth it. You get a good amount of paint. You get a great amount of posability. At some point down the line, because the hands are on mushroom pegs that you can just literally slide them out. Someone's definitely going to make an upgrade kit that gives them posable hands. That's definitely coming. I would have maybe liked some side skirts right here just to fill out his robot diaper. But all in all, I never liked this dude's look, but once I actually got them all together and I got all the aerial bots, it was really fun. It's just, you have to actually get this in your hands to fully appreciate it. One of my friends, he wasn't about it until I actually let him hold mine, and he actually felt it and he put it together and he really liked it. Don't just go off of it being a combiner frame transformer. Try to give it a chance. If you like this character, if you like combiners, I think you're going to really, really like it. I did. It convinced me, maybe even more so than Devastator. I'm going to get to Devastator maybe in the next couple of videos, but I'm almost liking him a little bit more. I think I'm still kind of on the fence, but I think I like Superion a little bit more. I like that he's an Autobot combiner too. He's really grown on me since I had him, especially the head. I really, really like the head. There's just something about him. He has a certain presence. He has the weight to match his price. He has the paint to me. That's in a good middle ground between, you're not afraid to destroy the paint if you touch it, but it also still looks the part. There's even a lot on his chest right here, some silver, this is all paint. None of this is plastic. This is plastic right here, but a lot of this is paint. Even the stuff you wouldn't suspect to be paint is paint. I think he's just really nice. I think if you got $200 and you want a Superion, you want a solid combiner that you can mess with, you cannot go wrong with him. The individual area bots are fun, especially Silverbolt, but they're all fun in their own way. The arms are great. They look great in their vehicle modes. The leg aerial bots look great in their individual bot modes. It's just a bucket of fun. It's fun to put together and take apart. If you have an imagination, you're really gonna have a blast. If you have a kid who wants this, they're certainly gonna have a blast. Kids are, look, if something like this was around when I was a kid, my head would have exploded. I could not have been able to handle this. I kind of remember vaguely the combiner from Robots in Disguise, Onslaught or Ruination. It was Ruination. And that thing kind of was a piece of junk. I think it was a G1 toy. No disrespect to the G1 combiners, but, you know, the toys weren't the best. Maybe a missing link of the G1 combiners one day. That might be pretty cool. But yeah, I think you should get it. If you're on the fence, if you don't know, definitely get Superion. Maybe even over Devastator. Thank you for watching, guys. Have a good one.